Welcome to another edition of the Magnolia Masters Pro Camp Swim Analysis. This time we've got with pro triathlete Kyle Warrick. And so what I'm going to do is just let this play, and I'll let you guys watch it. I won't make any commentary. And then we'll start to break down a stroke and talk about what we worked on for him to get better. Okay, so now we're back to the beginning. So, as always, the first thing we want to check out is kind of his body position in the water. So you can see, just from the body position that he looks pretty low in the water. Head's kind of low, hips are definitely low, feet are low. There's in general, it looks like just, not the greatest connection between his arms and his body as he's moving. There's kind of a little bit of a twist there on that right side, kind of by his lower back. You can see even from this angle, his feet are coming way apart. So that's all just drag and instability that, is making him less efficient in the water. You can see kind of this right here. Here he enters in and he looks low in the water, but, because he just at this angle, what you can see, from here like this. And that's just indicative of that. But let's see if he enters in. He's still entering in hand first, but it's pretty close. He's getting pretty good extension. If he was up higher on the water, this would be a really good entry. He'd be, a little bit more longer in the water, and the hand would be entering, and the elbow would come a little bit after the entry of the hand, which would be more ideal. And then on the right side, you can see here's where all the instability comes from. So, that wide scissor kick right there slows him down and then almost forces him into this spear into the water. And, one of the things that you really want to avoid is you don't want to spear the water like that. It's probably one of the worst. I've heard a lot of people in the triathlon community use that as a cue. And, I understand why they're doing it. They want you to try to get into that early vertical forearm. And I've done a video on this before. But what's, more important is the catch. And one of the things that happens when you give that cue to spear the water like that is it can really take away from the catch. And I'll show you what it looks like more underwater. But it's the catch and the high elbow followed after it is where kind of a lot of the propulsion is going to be coming from. And again, that relates back to body position and stability in the water. But, the one thing you don't want to do is spear the water. It's always a pretty good sign of instability. Okay, so here's what I mean by spearing the water. So you can see right here, he gets into, the holy grail for triathlon, which is early vertical forearm. So that EVF. And, one of the things, though, that we're really going after, where you set up that kind of chain, where all the musculature gets activated together, all at the same time to pull the water, is it starts right when your hand enters the water and you set that catch. Okay? So you set that catch, it engages all the musculature you need, which sets up the rest of the musculature, then to pull really, really hard. But it starts up here. It doesn't start down here by just getting into this early vertical forearm position because you give up the catch. It's really tough to set a catch when your hand is in this position right here from the get-go. You want to set it up here where you've got a little bit more ability to kind of set the catch and then go into a high elbow catch and pull the water, throwing it right back behind you or directing it right back behind you. So you can see on this side, we could work on this as well. Here the elbow drops. He's got a little bit better right here, but then, and is able to set the catch. But just because of this body position right here, it's tough to get it in anything other than that position. As opposed to, and this is why body position becomes so important, because if all of this was up, this would look more like this. It would be much easier to have the shoulder then in this position when we're setting that catch and about to pull, and then just be able to pull straight back. And that's the importance of kind of getting that body position up on the water. So then you can see here, this position right here, you can see kind of how low, all of this is. And then this right here, 7 to 10 seconds, 100 is what we're looking at in terms of how much he could gain if, without really kind of increasing effort at all. He'd be 7 to 10 seconds, 100 faster if that was, all of this was up. So, and then you can see kind of how much the feet are coming apart here. And then, he really rotates to that one side a lot. And then we'll be able to see kind of more of the instability from here. Okay. So one of the things I want you to look at is when he takes the breath, I want you to watch the feet come apart. And then that's right after that is when he spears the water. So here we go. The feet come apart. Let's see. Here's the breath. Feet come apart and then spear. Takes a breath. Feet come apart. Spear. And that's just because, look, that big, huge kind of scissor kick right there is just killing the momentum. So then his hand has got to spear the water because he's running out of momentum and there's a ton of instability. So, his breath right now when he breathes is just creating a bunch of instability in the stroke. You'll be able to see kind of, here this is going out like that. Feet are coming apart like that. And we can see kind of in general that position right there, which isn't helpful. And then we'll go into this side and you'll be able to see the same thing on the other side. So you can see the feet coming apart right there. So here's that. That's kind of spearing right there. That leg is like that. And then let's see. Yeah, there's the breath again. Maybe it was back more. There's another one where he's kind of on the other side. Yeah. So here you can see, there's that position, there's that position. And remember, what we're trying to get to more than anything else is everything is driving straight forward. And then these are all connected right behind you. Everything is in this very, very tight line going right down the middle of the water. Head's aligned, spine is aligned. Everything is driving perfectly straight forward. And if you're not doing that, that should be the first thing that you address in your stroke. And try to get to the understanding of why that's happening. So if we keep on going here, you can just see the general instability that he's got. And here from the front, we'll get a good look at. Okay, so on this arm right here, we want to look at to check out kind of the stability of, when you make this movement. So you can see here for him, he's about 40 degrees off the plane of the water. That's not bad. That's about what, most of the best distance swimmers, 30 to 40 degrees off that plane. Here's where some of the issue comes in. We can see right here, right there. Probably over 60. Here's where the hand is. There's where probably midline is, about there. So we are way away from midline, way away from where the leverage on the water is. And, out here, it's just a no man's land of leverage. You can't get any pressure on your hands. You can't generate any propulsion. You're just giving up a whole stroke or half a stroke cycle effectively. And, when we're looking to be as efficient as possible, that's just, if you're looking to be efficient, you can't do that. So that's where stability comes into play here, and, why we've got to get as stable as possible on the water. And you can see kind of just even from this angle, here's the hand going kind of way, way outside again, outside the body. And there's just no leverage over there. So, okay, so here we go. We'll take a look at these. So if we look here, you can see on that breath, again, here's where midline is. Here's where that hand is. And this is how far we are from midline. And then more importantly, this angle right here, if you want leverage on the water, it's typically 100 to 110 degrees. That's kind of the sweet spot, somewhere in there. And, he was at 141 there. And then when we look here, we are at, 130. So, he's given up a lot on both sides. This would probably be better in about there, somewhere between 100 and 110. You can even see, we'll see this in the data. So he pulls through. Remember, we're trying to get it where these hands are just pressing straight back. So even though our body is rotating, okay, we want the hand to be pressed straight back, driving us straight forward, even though we're rotating, okay? And you can see, here he goes. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You can see the hand starting to turn out that way. Starting to turn out more, turning in now, turning in, wrapping around, and then finishing. So then if we go to the right, you can see kind of it starts to go out that way. Coming around, now it's shooting more towards this way. And then he gets a good bite on the water and then starts to throw it back a little bit up. And then when we go kind of more of a slow-mo, you'll be able to see, what this looks like where, he's just a little bit floppy. There's not a ton of engagement where you'd want to see it when he's pulling. You can see on that left, he pulls way outside. There's not a lot of leverage there because he's adding so much instability. You can see the feet coming apart, coming under him, and that's all drag. That's all drag that he has to pull against that's slowing him down. Yeah, that's what we're kind of working on right now. You can see it a little bit more in the mirror too. So what we started out with was kick with the brick and fins. So what that's going to do is if you cue the athlete correctly, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the core. It's going to put it from up here and it's going to put it from down here with the fins. And that's what we want to do. We want to hyper stimulate that core, hyper engage, force it where it has no other choice but to engage and hold this straight line. So you can see here, he's still a little bit loose. So we went back, we did some more cues. He's getting better. And then you'll be able to see on the last one where it's really just rock solid, where he's able to really engage, really hold that straight line down the middle of his body. So we're right, right, that straight line right there, or basically right there. So that's what we want. You'd be able to see it better from up above, but I don't have that angle right here. Okay, so here was some of the data. So this was the first round of testing that we did when he first got here. And you could see, he's pretty good. 64% propulsive, about 2 newtons on the left side that he's generating, 2.9 on the right. And you can see where the propulsion is going. So it's, pretty good. It's going off and out to the side, off and out to the side. A little bit shorter on that left. And, we know why it's not generating as much propulsion on the left. 24% downward, and then he's throwing some left, some right. Okay? And again, I see this all the time now. This is always indicative of, instability in the stroke. If you don't have that stability, if you don't have the fitness to support that stability for 1.2, 2.4 miles, it will always look like this. And you are going to be less propulsive. You're going to be less efficient with less speed. And that's what we're trying to get to, is more stability, more propulsion, more efficiency, more speed. But it's tied in with your fitness. It's tied in with the technique. You cannot separate those two things out from one another. Okay, so here was the second session, and I think this was about 5 days later. So we've gone up by about 20% on the propulsion on the left. We've stayed about the same on the right. However, overall propulsion's gone up to 75.2. Downward now is only 14.6. So you can see he's getting a lot more stable in the water. And then you can see the right here, is almost going just perfectly straight back. There's still a little bit of it that's going off to the left. But the majority of it is still just going. He's just driving it straight back. And then the left is starting to look more like the right used to, where, it's going off to the side, but, we've got a pretty good, it's starting to come around. It's not, short, really short like the other one was in the first session through. So remember, this was only for about 45 seconds. We did this little data run. And, we need to be able to do this for 1.2, 2.4 miles. So you have to build up a lot of fitness and a lot of resiliency in the stroke so that this becomes the default. So no matter what's going on when you're dealing with the instability in the water, you're dealing with, as you get tired, as stress increases, your brain and body know that this is really the only way that you can swim, that it doesn't go back to kind of the way that it was before, that you keep these higher and higher levels of efficiency, even as the stress mounts, even as you get tired. And that's what we want to build. And that's what takes so very long to build in swimming, is that resiliency, that kind of bulletproof nature of the stroke that only comes about through repetition of really great technique, coupled with high levels of fitness specific to the movement you're making. So that's kind of where a lot of this is going to come from, where you're going to get, how you're going to get better. It's not a particular set. There are no key sets. There are no key workouts. It is just consistency over and over again for not days, not weeks, not months, but for years. And that's how you build these really efficient swim strokes. So we go a little bit forward and we'll see some more of the data. So here was the first run, and this was what his propulsion looked like, kind of just in the stroke, if you want to look at kind of in a graph. So these little ups and downs, those are all where he was less propulsive. So you could see when we were talking about it from the previous video, where he was kind of turning the hand in and out. And you can see the same thing on the right. He's turning the hand in and out, and it's not as propulsive, but you can see that the right is much more propulsive in this kind of graph in this first run than the left. And, here's spots where he's kind of going negative in terms of propulsion. So, that would be something that you definitely want to avoid. So then we go forward to the next one, and then here's the next one. So you can see this is all kind of definitely leveled out a little bit more. Still has some of the instability right here, right there, right there, right there. But it's certainly getting better. And again, it's all about the stability. And it's all about the stability that you can create with your technique and fitness, and then how well that can deal with the instability and the dynamic nature of the water that's always trying to make you unstable. That's where the real key in all of this is. How do we get to that stability? How do we really build a stable stroke? So we'll just keep on going, and you'll get to see kind of here's the before and after. From the front, you can see on the after, he looks a lot more rock solid stable. He's just driving everything straight forward. Still need to work on the breath a little bit, but it definitely has improved. And I'll just kind of go a slow-mo with it, and you can see it. So here we go. Whoops. There we go. So you can see, that right has come in. The left has come in. It's more underneath his body, and driving kind of that water, directing it straight back behind him. And he's holding a much better line. A lot more stable in the water. And that's kind of why you're seeing the increases in propulsion and efficiency. So, as always, thank you for tuning in. Please go check out Kyle's social media and like it. I think he's going to be fun to follow this year in kind of his second year as a pro triathlete. And, if you have any questions about what I covered in this video, please let me know. I am always happy to answer questions. And as always, if you like, share, comment, those always help the channel, the YouTube channel, tremendously, and I would appreciate it. And I'll be able to continue to bring you really cool content. So, again, thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you in the pool soon.